Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Tirvavati Nashtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 7, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, text 68 onwards. Sannyasi hayakara nardana gaya, bhavuk sabha sange laya kara sankirtan. You are a sannyasi. Why then do you indulge in chanting and dancing, engaging in your Sankirtan movement in the company of fanatics? So this is what Prakashanand Saraswati, he said to Mahaprabhu at that place where he met him. And Mahaprabhu went there. When Mahaprabhu went there, he just sat down at the place where everybody would wash their feet, and he just sat down there. And he exhibited an effulgence equal to millions of suns. And Prakashanand Saraswati and all the other sannyasis, they were very impressed, and they brought him in. And as Prabhupada wrote earlier, so this is how they performed some Agyat Sukriti, serving the Lord, and the Lord became very merciful afterwards. This is a challenge by Prakashanand Saraswati to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhashya that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the object of Vedanta philosophical research, has very kindly determined who is an appropriate candidate for study of Vedanta philosophy. The first qualification of such a candidate is expressed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Shikshashtaka. Trinadapi Shanichena Tarorapi Saheshrana Manina Manadena Kirtanya Sadahari. So this is the first qualification to study Vedanta. Normally, after somebody becomes a big scholar, he becomes very proud. But then he doesn't understand the Vedanta philosophy. Because in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Vidya Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Cha Shupake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. So Vidya and Vinay, they both go together. It's not like if somebody has Vidya, he has no Vinay anymore. Generally it happens, but this is not the right Vidya. This statement indicates that one can hear or speak about Vedanta philosophy through the disciplic succession. One must be very humble and meek, more tolerant than a tree and more humble than the grass. One should not claim respect for himself, but should be prepared to give all respect to others. One must have these qualifications to be eligible to understand Vedic knowledge. So this is a preliminary qualifications. Otherwise, one cannot understand. And this is one of the reasons. It's not that every Kshatriya and Vaishya would have these qualifications, but Shudras are not supposed to study Vedas because these qualifications are not there. Shudras, again, not the caste system. I'm not talking about caste system, Varnashram system. Vedanta Patandhyan Sanyasira Dharma Tahachari Kara Kena Bhavukera Karma. Meditation and the study of Vedanta are the sole duties of a sannyasi. Why do you abandon these to dance with fanatics? As explained in regard to verse 41, Mayavadi sannyasis do not approve of chanting and dancing. Prakashanand Saraswati, like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, misunderstood Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be a misled young sannyasi, and therefore asked him why he indulged in the association of fanatics instead of executing the duty of a sannyasi. Prabhave dekhiye tomo sakshat Narayan. Ina chara kara kena ithe ki kara. You look as brilliant as if you were Narayan himself. Will you kindly explain the reason that you adopted the behavior of lower class people? So, due to renunciation, Vedanta study, meditation, and the strict regulative principles of the daily routine, Mayavadi sannyasis are certainly in a position to execute pious activities. Thus, Prakashanand Saraswati, on account of his piety, could understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not an ordinary person, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, this much he understood. Sakshat Narayan. Prakashanand considered him to be Narayan himself. Mayavadi sannyasis address one another as Narayan because they think that they are all going to be Narayan or merge with Narayan in the next life. This is the goal actually. Prakashanand Saraswati appreciated that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already become Narayan and did not need to wait until next life. So he did not think that Mahaprabhu is Sakshat Narayan means Lord Vishnu himself. He is thinking he has become Narayan, or uh, he has advanced so high that he has become Narayan. One difference between the Vaishnava and Mayavadi philosophies is that Mayavadi philosophers think that after giving up their bodies, they're going to become Narayan by merging with his body. Whereas Vaishnava philosophers understand that after the body dies, they're going to have a transcendental spiritual body in which to associate with Narayan. So now one thing to understand, so this is the philosophical difference, but how do we understand who's Vaishnava and who's a Mayavadi sannyasi? We should respect every sannyasi, no doubt, but how do we know who's Mayavadi and who's Vaishnava? So just to, because I was watching today's that inauguration ceremony of Parliament. I saw the video afterwards. So if you noticed, Prime Minister Modi invited so many sannyasis from South and other religion people also, but mostly these sannyasis came from South, and they were doing the installation of that Rajdanda. Now, the thing was, they were all Shankaracharya followers sannyasi. They were Mayavadi sannyasis. How do we know? First thing is the tilak. Now, if somebody is putting on tilak 3 horizontal lines, like they generally show on Lord Shiva, so that means he's a Mayavadi philosopher, Mayavadi person. If he's a sannyasi, he's a Mayavadi sannyasi. So these 3 horizontal lines means we are one with God. Vaishnava tilak is always vertical, like we put on. So whether it is Gaudiya Vaishnava, we put on this tilak, vertical tilak with gopi chandan and a leaf on the nose. So those 2 lines on our forehead, vertical line, they represent lotus feet of Krishna. And the leaf represents Tulsi ji. So we are taking shelter of lotus feet of Krishna and taking shelter of Tulsi Maharani to engage us in service of the Lord. And then Shri Sampradaya, they have like a V shape, 2 lines, white with chandan, and a red line in the middle. So V-shaped lines represent lotus feet of Lord, and red line represents Lakshmi ji. And sometimes some just put one line in the middle, vertical line. So that's also Vaishnava. Mayavadi sannyasis or Mayavadi followers, they always put horizontal 3 lines. So just to know the difference. No, they were doing wonderful ceremony in the parliament, and howsoever they installed that Rajdand. That's fine, whichever way. But this is what they follow, and our prime minister also follows that. He's not a Vaishnav. He's a Mayavadi philosophy follower, a follower of Mayavadi philosophy. He's doing a wonderful job. Not talking about that part, politics part, just talking the philosophy part. प्रभु कहे सुन श्रीपाद हर कारण गुरु मोर मूर्ख देखी करेला शासन. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied to Prakashanand Saraswati, "My dear sir, kindly hear the reason. My spiritual master considered me a fool, and therefore he chastised me." So Prakashanand Saraswati asked, "Why are you just chanting and dancing? Why not sit down and study Vedanta?" And Mahaprabhu said, "My spiritual master said I am a fool, so he chastised me." Means Mahaprabhu took such a humble position, such a humble. On one side, Prakashanand says, saying, "You are Sakshat Narayan," and Narayan saying, "My Guru Maharaj said I'm a fool." When Prakashanand Saraswati inquired from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu why he neither studied Vedanta nor performed meditation, Lord Chaitanya presented himself as a number one fool in order to indicate that the present age, Kali Yuga, is an age of fools and rascals in which it is not possible to obtain perfection simply by reading Vedanta philosophy and meditating. So it's not possible, not in Kali Yuga. The Shastras strongly recommend Hare Ranam, Hare Ranam, Hare Ranam eva kevalam. Kalo nastiv, nastiv, nastiv gatiranyatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So definitely not by studying Vedanta, which with nothing wrong with Vedanta Sutras, it's just we are not eligible in this day and age to study, to understand, to assimilate the teachings of Vedanta. People in general in Kali Yuga are so fallen that it is not possible for them to obtain perfection simply by studying the Vedanta Sutra. One should therefore seriously take to the constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. This is the only process, and Mahaprabhu showed by his example. This is what I'm doing. Murkh tumi tomar nahika Vedanta dika. Krishna mantra japa sada ei mantra sa. He said, my guru told me, you are a fool, he said. You're not qualified to study Vedanta philosophy, and therefore you must always chant the holy names of Krishna. This is the essence of all mantras or Vedic hymns. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj comments in this connection, one can become perfectly successful in the mission of his life if he acts exactly according to the words he hears from the mouth of his spiritual master. This acceptance of the words of the spiritual master is called the Shrota Vakya, which indicates that the disciple must carry out the spiritual master's instructions without deviation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that a disciple must accept the words of the spiritual master as his life and soul. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here confirms this by saying that since his spiritual master ordered him only to chant the holy name of Krishna, he always chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra according to this direction. Krishna mantra japa sada ei mantra sar. So this is the essence. And obviously, Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the essence of everything. Krishna is the essence of everything, means essence of all knowledge, all the path of attaining perfection in Kali Yuga. Krishna is the origin of everything. Therefore, when a person is fully Krishna conscious, it is to be understood that his relationship with Krishna has been fully confirmed. Lacking Krishna consciousness, one is only partially related with Krishna and is therefore not in his constitutional position. Although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the spiritual master of the entire universe, he nevertheless took the position of a disciple in order to teach by example how a devotee should strictly follow the orders of spiritual master in executing the duty of always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So he is showing by his example, one should always follow the instructions of his spiritual master. Okay. One who is very much attracted to the study of Vedanta philosophy must take lessons from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this age, no one is actually competent to study Vedanta, and therefore it is better that one chant the holy name of the Lord, which is the essence of all Vedic knowledge, as Krishna himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Vedasya Sarver Ahme Vedya. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. The only fools give up the service of the spiritual master and think themselves advanced in spiritual knowledge. In order to check such fools, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself presented the perfect example of how to be a disciple. A spiritual master knows very well how to engage each disciple in a particular duty. But if a disciple, thinking himself more advanced than his spiritual master, gives up his orders and acts independently, he checks his own spiritual progress. Every disciple must consider himself completely unaware of the science of Krishna and must always be ready to carry out the orders of the spiritual master to become competent in Krishna consciousness. A disciple should always remain a fool before his spiritual master. Therefore, sometimes pseudo-spiritualists accept a spiritual master who is not even fit to become a disciple because they want to keep him under their control. Sometimes pseudo-spiritualists accept a spiritual master who is not even fit to become a disciple. What to speak of becoming a spiritual master, to keep him under their control. So this is many times I've seen here, it happens. If the disciple is rich or is very powerful, so-called disciple, materially is powerful, whether politically or some other way, then he thinks, if I keep a spiritual master, I'll have good reputation in the society. And people will regard me as a spiritual person, they will follow me, they'll respect me. So they keep people like that, spiritual master, and always keep them under their control instead of serving him. And what does it do? It just sets a bad example, very, very bad example for everybody, for prospective disciples and prospective spiritual masters also. And so-called spiritual master, they just take some money from these rich disciples and he thinks, okay, my life is comfortable, I don't care. And I'll just say or do whatever these disciples, whatever these rich people want. And Prabhupada said, this is useless for spiritual realization. One who imperfectly knows Krishna consciousness cannot know Vedanta philosophy. A showy display of Vedanta study without Krishna consciousness is a feature of the external energy Maya. And as long as one is attracted by the inabilities of this ever-changing material energy, he deviates from devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. An actual follower of Vedanta philosophy is a devotee of Lord Vishnu, who is the greatest of the great and the maintainer of the entire universe. Unless one surpasses the field of activities in service to the limited, one cannot reach the unlimited. Nice statement. Unless one surpasses the field of activities in the service to the limited. So field of activities in the service to the limited. To the limited. Limited means the body or the material world. One cannot reach the unlimited. So we have to surpass this activities here. Knowledge of the unlimited is actual Brahma Gyan, or knowledge of the Supreme. Those who are addicted to fruitive activities and speculative knowledge cannot understand the value of the holy name of Lord Krishna, which is always completely pure, eternally liberated and full of spiritual bliss. One who has taken shelter of the holy name of the Lord, which is identical with the Lord, does not have to study Vedanta philosophy, for he has already completed all such studies. So this is what, there was a shloka in Bhagavatam, Aho Vatsva Pacho Togariyan, that if there is holy name of the Lord at the tip of the tongue, not even he's chanting from the bottom of his heart. If somebody is chanting by tip of his tongue, that means he has completed all the Vedic studies in the previous lives, going to all the places of pilgrimage, doing all sort of japa and tapa and everything he has done. And that is when he becomes eligible to, of course, that's not a prerequisite, but if somebody is chanting now, that means he has performed all it. He doesn't need to do it. Of course, devotees went to Prabhupada after read this shloka. So they said, Prabhupada, so you think, do you mean to say we have completed, we have done so many austerities and penances and study of Vedic scriptures, everything we have done? That's why we are chanting now. Prabhupada said, I made your pious activities. Means you haven't done. Maybe they have done some. I'm not saying they didn't do anything. But Prabhupada said, and humbly he said, but this is the position of Prabhupada. He said, I made your pious activities. One who is unfit to chant the holy name of Krishna, but thinks that the holy name is different from Krishna and thus takes shelter of Vedanta study in order to understand him, must be considered a number one fool, as confirmed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by his personal behavior. And philosophical speculators who want to make Vedanta philosophy an academic career are also considered to be within the material energy. A person who always chants the holy name of the Lord, however, is already beyond the ocean of nations. And thus even a person born in a low family who engages in chanting the holy name of the Lord is considered to be beyond the study of Vedanta philosophy, even if he was born in a low family. He might not be eligible to study Vedanta, but anybody and everybody can chant holy. This is the beauty of chanting. In this connection, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Aho Bhatta Shupacho Togariyan. If a person born in a family of dog eaters takes to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, it is to be understood that in his previous life he must have executed all kinds of austerities and penances and performed all the Vedic yajnas. Another quotation states, Rig Vedo Vat Yajur Veda Sama Vedo Api Atharvanam. Adhita Stena Yenoktam Harir Iti Akshara Dvayam. A person who chants at 2 syllables, Akshar Dvayam, 2 syllables, Hari, has already studied the 4 Vedas, Sama, Rega, Yajur, and Atharva. That's how powerful chanting is. Taking advantage of these verses, there are some Sahajiyas who, taking everything very cheaply, consider themselves elevated Vaishnavas, but do not care even to touch the Vedanta Sutra or Vedanta philosophy. A real Vaishnava, however, study Vedanta philosophy, but if after studying Vedanta one does not adopt the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, he is no better than a Mayavadi. Therefore, one should not be a Mayavadi, yet one should not be unaware of the subject matter of Vedanta philosophy. Indeed, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his knowledge of Vedanta in his discourses with Prakashan and Saraswati. Thus, it is to be understood that a Vaishnava should be completely conversant with Vedanta philosophy, but should not think that studying Vedanta is all in all, and therefore he be unattached to the chanting of the holy name. So chanting is the most important activity. A devotee must know the importance of simultaneously understanding Vedanta philosophy and chanting the holy names. If by studying Vedanta, one becomes an impersonalist, he has not been able to understand Vedanta. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Vedanta means the end of knowledge. The ultimate end of knowledge is knowledge of Krishna, who is identical with his holy name. Cheap Vaishnavas or Sahajiyas do not care to study the Vedanta philosophy as commented upon by the four Acharyas. In the Gaudiya Sampradaya, there is a Vedanta commentary called the Govinda Bhashya, but the Sahajiyas consider such commentaries to be untouchable philosophical speculation, and they consider the Acharyas to be mixed devotees. Thus, they clear their way to hell. So, both are important: study of Vedic scriptures, Vedanta, and chanting. And chanting, somebody can dance, that's also great in Kirtan. But not just Vedanta and not just chanting is enough. Both go hand in hand. Okay, long purport by Prabhupada. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Hare Krishna.
प्रभु जी, कुछ साधु लोग ना वो सिर्फ ऐसे फोरहेड पे पूरा येलो कुछ लगाया होता है उन्होंने, हल्दी कुमकुम क्या होता है, येलो कलर का चंदन पूरा ऐसे फोरहेड कवर किया होता है, एंड देन सेंटर वाला एरिया इज लाइक ब्लैंक। वो कौन से संप्रदाय में होते हैं?
वो वैष्णव है। आई थिंक वो जो आजकल फेसबुक पे ज्यादा आते हैं उनके वीडियोस, वो राधा वल्लभ संप्रदाय से है वैष्णव। वो उसके हालांकि साइड में येलो है चंदन पर, बीच में दो लाइनें वर्टिकल दिखेंगी आपको।
अच्छा,
तो वो वर्टिकल लाइंस मींस वैष्णव, डेफिनेटली।
अच्छा, ओके ओके।
ठीक है, चलो, you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
हरे कृष्णा। थैंक यू प्रभु जी। जय श्री